That's a bad idea. That's a bad idea.
Thought I would win against Anthony, but here I am with a broken jaw, learning the hard way. I'll heal, and I'll be back.
Picture this scene for a moment. The Kaseya Center in Miami was buzzing with this electric energy that you could feel in your bones. Then boom, in the span of maybe 3 seconds, that entire arena turned into a graveyard. Anthony Joshua threw this perfectly timed right hand in the 6th round, and brother, it didn't just drop Jake Paul. It sucked every single sound out of that building like someone hit a mute button on 20,000 people.
6, 7, 8.
So Joshua's right hand connects, and suddenly everyone in that arena realized what they were actually watching. This wasn't Jake slipping on some moisture or catching bad luck. This wasn't content for his next upload or material for a comeback tweet. Earlier that night, Jake had been moving around that ring like he owned the place, completely relaxed, feeding off the crowd energy the way he always does. Fast forward just a few minutes, and everything flipped upside down. Medical team rushing in, his jaw completely destroyed, fight over before he wanted it to be, and years of carefully built storylines crashing down in front of millions of eyeballs. That whiplash moment, that complete 180, hit everyone like a freight train, because this wasn't just another L on the record books. This was the moment a perfectly crafted illusion died in real time. Man got absolutely leveled by that shot.
Boxing is not a game. Fighting is not something you pick up and mess around with, right? If you're a fighter, if you're a boxer, if you're a mixed martial artist, right, you have to take this seriously and you have to respect the game.
But now Jake didn't accidentally stumble into boxing through some random series of events. Every single step was calculated with military precision. He handpicked opponents based on very specific requirements, managed weight advantages like a chess master, stayed far away from the genuine killers early on, and instead targeted big names that brought massive pay-per-view numbers without bringing that real smoke into the ring. Past their prime legends, smaller guys who couldn't match his physical gifts, or athletes from other sports who didn't possess that boxing-specific skill set, the blueprint worked like magic for years. 12 victories, 7 knockouts, numbers that looked legit on paper. Millions of people bought into the legitimacy so completely. Media played along because the stories generated traffic. Content creators amplified every win because it was engagement gold. Anyone questioning the formula got labeled as jealous haters or old school purists who couldn't adapt to change.
Counter right. There's the right hand. Jake Paul goes down again. Man, he's put.
But here's what nobody wanted to say out loud, and this is the key to understanding everything. That whole system only functions when every single piece stays exactly where it's supposed to be. Jake always controlled the when, the where, the how. Size advantages were massive factors in his opponent's selection. Weight gaps mattered in ways people ignored. Experience differentials were bigger than anyone admitted publicly. For years, those realities stayed buried under flashy highlight packages and unshakable confidence. The real threat was never one particular fighter on one particular evening. The real threat was buying into your own mythology so completely that you think success built under perfect laboratory conditions can survive anywhere against anyone. Anthony Joshua destroyed that mythology permanently.
Best shot at the moment. Not that much is going to happen. And it almost... Oh, there's a left hook.
This wasn't some fun exhibition or celebrity entertainment event. Joshua showed up as exactly what his resume says he's always been. A legitimate heavyweight destroyer with 26 knockouts and real permanent damage in his hands. He didn't need social media beef or press conference theatrics to sell himself. Right from the opening bell, the skill gap was painfully obvious to everyone watching. Jake wasn't boxing. In there, he was holding on for dear life, clinching whenever possible, grabbing to slow the pace, doing everything humanly possible to survive something he couldn't control through technique. The speed difference, the timing advantage, the raw power gap were already insurmountable from minute one. That ending was written before they even touched gloves.
About your social media following.
Bad idea. That's a bad idea. But let me tell you what, a lot of people watch that one.
Will you watch it?
Sure. You know what everybody's tuning in for on that one. I think everybody's going to get what they finally been waiting for.
The fight.
Joshua stayed patient and professional the entire time. No rushing for highlight reel moments. No hunting for social media clips. Just methodically waiting for his opening. Round 5 brought the warning shots. Jake hit the deck hard, then again tasting canvas a second time. Each knockdown drained more confidence from his face. You could literally watch it leak out of him. Round 6 wasn't dramatic when it happened, it was just math. One perfectly placed right hand with surgical timing and placement. The Kaseya Center witnessing a textbook demonstration.
Fight for a second. It happened in the 6th round, and it happened in a 22-foot ring. A typical ring is 20 foot. This one was 22 foot because he wanted a bigger room to operate, a bigger space, a bigger ring, somewhere.
When Jake couldn't beat the count on that canvas, the numbers painted a picture that was absolutely devastating to process. First knockout loss of his career, something he'd successfully avoided until this moment. Second defeat overall on his record. The math now reads 12 wins, 2 losses, and math doesn't negotiate. Meanwhile, Anthony Joshua collected his 29th victory and 26th knockout like he was punching a time clock. Just another Tuesday at work for him. Nothing unusual. Jake left that building with a completely shattered jaw requiring immediate medical attention, surgery that couldn't wait, hospital stay lasting multiple days, and a liquid diet extending weeks into his future. You can debate scorecards and argue about rounds and points, but you can't debate bone fragments. That's a receipt that doesn't care about subscriber count.
I need to give this guy a systematic breakdown. I know what type of fighter he is, and I said I'm going to take his soul, and I said I'm going to see it leaving his body round after round, and when the time comes, some people are just there to get knocked out. And I said it, and that's exactly what happened.
The real damage didn't stop when the referee called it off. That's what people keep missing in all the breakdowns. The final bell didn't protect Jake from anything meaningful. The 10 count didn't end the actual consequences that were coming. Reality kicked in afterward. Hours and days later, when the adrenaline completely faded and medical professionals showed up with x-rays and treatment plans that don't give a damn about YouTube views or Instagram engagement. Broken jaw requiring surgical reconstruction. Hospital monitoring and procedures to reassemble the pieces. That's not material for a casual comeback video to your audience. That's your skeleton sending a formal notice to your ambitions, and there's no appeals process for that verdict. Almost immediately, the entire energy shifted dramatically. Social media went quiet. Tweet frequency dropped to nearly 0. The same person who used to document every breath of his career in real time went completely silent, because when your jaw is wired shut and you're consuming nutrition through a straw for weeks, confidence feels different. This wasn't a black eye that disappears in 7 days or bruised ribs you can tape up. This was a permanent reminder that when you step in with a legitimate heavyweight carrying legitimate power, consequences don't end when the cameras stop rolling. All that press conference swagger looks incredible under bright lights. It looks significantly less incredible in a hospital bed waiting for surgery. That brutal contrast is exactly why this moment hit different with everyone watching. Hours before, Jake was strutting confidently, mugging for photographers, absorbing attention like he always has. Now he's surrounded by medical personnel, discussing recovery schedules and surgical procedures. That's why this defeat cut deeper than anything previous. Audiences can joke about decision losses and move forward. They can turn knockdowns into memes for entertainment. But surgical procedures and broken bones aren't entertainment content anymore. That's accountability showing up with an invoice. Boxing's version of a receipt you can't return. And while Jake dealt with doctors and faced harsh reality, Dana White dealt with something completely different, being vindicated in the most brutal fashion imaginable. Dana didn't jump into this conversation after the knockout happened. He'd been sounding alarms about this matchup long before any contracts got signed. Called it a terrible idea publicly and repeatedly. Straight up predicted Jake was entering territory he didn't belong in. Water way over his head. At the time, people dismissed him casually. Said Dana was bitter about influencer boxing. Said he resented the crossover movement. Said he was threatened by Jake's popularity challenging traditional structures. That's where everything starts falling apart mentally for Jake Paul. Physical healing happens naturally over time, but psychological recovery is infinitely more complex. After the fight, Jake claimed he rocked Anthony Joshua at certain points, insisted he won specific rounds on the scorecards. Sure, that's human psychology, that's the bargaining stage everyone experiences. But his body language revealed a completely different truth for anyone paying attention. The slow exit from that arena. The blank stare into nothing. The way he spoke without his trademark sharp confidence and edge, you could hear it in his tone. Something fundamental broke inside. This was his first knockout loss in his entire boxing journey. Decision losses hurt your record and sting your pride temporarily. Getting knocked unconscious changes how you view yourself as a fighter permanently. It forces questions you can't edit out or algorithm away. Jake has always excelled at controlling narratives brilliantly. Find fresh opponents, create new angles, spin different storylines. But when you're laid out flat, unable to continue, there's no creative workaround available. The difference between losing and getting stopped is psychologically enormous. Decision losses allow argument and debate. Knockouts end conversations permanently. Your confidence doesn't just take damage, it shatters completely. Suddenly, those shortcuts don't seem so brilliant anymore. Suddenly, those risks feel real in your chest. Suddenly, the sport stops being content creation and becomes actual combat with permanent consequences. That transformation didn't just impact Jake individually, it spread through his entire operation. Logan Paul felt it deeply too. Before the fight, Logan was animated and confident, surfing the momentum like always, backing his brother publicly. After the knockout, that energy disappeared entirely, because the Paul empire has always been constructed around total control, controlled chaos, controlled storylines, controlled dangers. For the first time, they lost control completely, in public. You can't edit hospital footage into positive content. You can't spin fractured bones into victory. You can't shield your brother from physics and reality. That's when entertainment becomes personal. That's the silent aftermath nobody prepared for. The moment when everyone, from supporters to promoters to other fighters, had to confront a serious question. How far is too far in this influencer boxing experiment? Because this wasn't entertainment accidentally gone wrong. This was reality delivered at heavyweight velocity. Once that door opens to genuine consequences, you can't seal it closed again. Jake Paul didn't just lose a contest for his record, he lost the fantasy that rules always bend in his direction. Once that fantasy shatters, every forward step feels infinitely heavier. This fight silently murdered the concept of risk-free crossover boxing as a viable long-term strategy. The unwritten agreement was always perfectly clear to people inside the industry. Influencers stay in shallow water where it's manageable, not in deep ocean with predators. Jake Paul deliberately crossed that boundary, and Anthony Joshua ensured nobody ever forgets it. This wasn't manufactured hype colliding with manufactured drama. This was hype crashing into levels it couldn't reach, no matter how hard it stretched. Overnight, promoters became nervous about future bookings. Fighters became cautious about accepting these crossover opportunities. Audiences stopped treating the whole thing like a joke. Legitimate boxers don't need influencer paychecks badly enough to risk becoming tomorrow's cautionary tale. Career questioned. Brand damaged. Legacy altered. That single knockout sent shockwaves through the entire crossover combat world. For Jake, there are no clean escape routes remaining. The record is permanent now, written in stone. First knockout defeat, second loss overall, no rematch clause to exercise, no moral victory to claim. Supporters are divided between sympathy and "we told you so" repeatedly. Sponsors examine risks more carefully now. Opponents hesitate before signing contracts. Credibility suddenly carries a real cost. The final reality is simple and undebatable. Boxing doesn't respect follower counts or social media influence. Dana White didn't defeat Jake Paul personally. Physics handled that job effectively. Anthony Joshua didn't just collect another win for his resume. He reinforced a line that needed reinforcing. This wasn't drama or manufactured controversy. This was gravity doing what gravity always does, bringing everything back to earth eventually.